Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Pints and Quarts, a show presented by the Craft Beer Nation. Today is Thursday, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, and tonight we're going to be speaking with Carl Meier, who's the owner, founder, president, chief keg washer, brewer, tap room worker sometimes, beer pourer sometimes, and occasional ball bearing founder over at the Black Abbey Brewing Company. And so we're going to talk to Carl, find out a little bit more about the Black Abbey, learn what they're doing, where they're going, all those fun types of things. But before that happens, I want to direct you to our different social media platforms. You can find us on YouTube. Just search for the Craft Beer Nation. Subscribe to our page. We love subscribers. Subscribe to us and watch our videos. We just started putting up some awesome beer reviews. Some of them are entertaining. Well, we think all of them are entertaining, but nonetheless, subscribe to our page. You can also find us on Twitter. We tweet at Craft B Nation. We're on Instagram at Craft Beer Nation. And, of course, you can find us on Google+. So pour that beer in the glass and get comfortable, and come right back for us when we start our conversation with Carl. All right. So, Carl, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm great, man. How are you?
I am doing fine. I got my friends with me tonight. We have back in the saddle for the first time in a long time. We have Matt Miller joining us. Matt, how are you doing tonight, buddy?
Cheers and fine. Glad to be here. Glad to be talking to our second Nashville, Tennessee brewery in our limited, 85, 90 shows. 2 of those are from Nashville. So this is Nashville's turning into a beer town. I'm excited to find out a little bit more about them.
Awesome. Gil Mello, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing awesome, yeah. Drinking beers and talking to the people that makes what we love, so what can be better than that, right?
Right. There are worse problems to have.
There are worse problems in the world, for sure.
So, Carl Meier, the Black Abbey Brewing Company. Carl, tell us a little bit about your history and how you got to where you are. Did you start off making craft beer before you were of legal drinking age?
You better believe it. So I didn't drink a drop. I made it, but I started homebrewing in 1993. I was in college in Western New York, and I took a class in the hotel school called Introduction to Wine and Spirits. And during that class, we had some pretty high-profile lecturers, including Robert Mondavi, it was amazing. But Michael Jackson was one of the featured lecturers, and we would taste, wine, or in this case, beer, during the lecture. And he came and we tasted. I still remember we tasted Celis White, we tasted Brooklyn Brown, Sam Smith's Tatty Porter, and I remember thinking that I had no idea that beer could taste anything like that. My previous experience was pretty well limited to Old Milwaukee and Labatt. And so pretty quickly it started, we were like, well, we should try to drink some, nice beer. And realized very quickly that our budget was not in line with our beer drinking taste. And so that, led us down the road of homebrewing, which led us down the road of realizing that, brewers are really talented people. Your first batch of homebrew out of the gate isn't necessarily the most palatable thing I've ever had. But yeah, so I started homebrewing in 1993, and then was an extract kit brewer for a number of years, moved to Nashville in 1999 as a trailing spouse. My wife went to Vanderbilt to get her master's. And while she was trying to study and I was being annoying, like, hey, can you come out and play with me? She suggested that I find a hobby so that she didn't flunk out. And so I joined a homebrew club here in town where I met, as members of that club were the owner brewer at Little Harpeth Brewing, which is one of the United States' only lager-only breweries here in Nashville, Yazoo Brewing Company, which is Nashville's oldest brewery, and Tennessee's largest. Karen Lassiter is now with Corsair. Corsair does mostly spirits, but they also have a high-gravity beer lab that Karen runs. And then there's another brewery here in Nashville called Zons. And so of that homebrew club, 5 of us are now professional in the industry,
Nice.
which is great. And so learned a lot in that club. And then entered a lot of competitions, sent beer all over the Southeast. My business partners and I met in that homebrew club, and we started writing a business plan in 2009 after we won a silver medal in the national homebrew competition that was in Oakland that year. So that was the beginning of it there, 2009, starting writing a business plan. We incorporated in 2011, found this space that we're in at the end of 2012, signed our lease January of 13.
So your homebrew club is like the Bill Parcells of brewing, where
right.
everybody associated with you can go and get their own brewery.
Yeah. We always say that we're like the Music City Mafia of beer.
There you go.
That's the best description I ever heard.
Everybody gets a brewery. If you remember this homebrew club, you get a brewery. You get a brewery.
At the end, you get your own brewery.
Yeah.
Well, you just told us that you signed a lease for that building. I've been, ended up being inside of it. I drove by the building. It's quite a nice place you got there. It's probably a few years older than you, that building, isn't it?
Well, let me ask you this. What's the tolerance on this show for language? Because I'm from time to time get salty.
Depend how many views you want us to get.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the reason that I ask is because when we first moved in, our insurance agent was coming over to do an inspection of the building, and he was late. And so it was like, where is this guy? Where is he? And finally he comes walking in, and I said, Paul, where were you? And he said, man, I've been driving up and down this street looking for you. I couldn't find the building. I said, yeah, I know. We got to get a sign out front. He goes, no, I was looking for a shithole. So, like, it seems to be sort of common practice that breweries try to find a low rent space because we need so much space. We were very, very fortunate to find this space. Our landlord purchased it in 2007, scraped the original building to the slab, spec built this 11,000 square foot building with 30-foot clear height as just a white box. So there was no demo for us to do. And then right in 2008, the bottom fell out of the economy and he couldn't find a tenant. So it sat vacant from 2008 until when we signed the lease in 2013. Wow. So we're very fortunate to have essentially a brand new building that required no demolition that was brewery ready.
All you had to do was put in drains, huh?
It was 8-inch concrete slab throughout, dock access, 30-foot clear height. It was everything you could ask for a brewery, and we were able to sort of design our own floor plan, which made it really easy and great for us.
Yeah. So based off of your name, I'm assuming that you guys are a Belgian-inspired brewery, right?
Yeah, we the origins of the name. When my business partners and I were in the process of business planning, we, of course, you can imagine, we argued about what the name should be. And one night I was brewing in the driveway. I'd mash in around 5 o'clock, and then I'd go inside, help put the kids to bed, come back out and finish up. So it's late at night when I was brewing, cleaning things up. It was a Saturday night. It was in October. I was kind of thinking about what the next day held. I thought, it was Halloween. It's Reformation Sunday. Does that mean I'm supposed to wear red? I can't remember. And I was brewing a Belgian-style ale, and I thought, Luther was a monk. Wasn't Martin Luther a monk? And that's Reformation Sunday. So now it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm doing research online on Martin Luther, texting my business partner saying, I've got it. Like, I've got the name. And so this story is such that Luther, as a monk in the mid-1500s, joined a monastery in Wittenberg, Germany, where he wrote his 95 Theses. Years later, he marries a nun. He and Catherine moved back into that same monastery as it was given to them as a wedding gift. She exercises the brewery rights on the property, and this is all documented. He'd written letters back to Catherine talking about how great her beer was, how much he missed the beer while he was away, how he had diarrhea because he wasn't drinking her beer. And that monastery was called the Black Cloister. But what we firmly believe is that the kind of beer that Catherine would have been making in the Middle Ages wouldn't have been at all what we think of as a German or lager style. They didn't necessarily they didn't know what yeast was, much less how to culture lager yeast. They didn't have the technology to make pale malt. It would have been dark, probably smoky, certainly fermented openly, probably with a degree of wild yeast, something what we think of more as a Belgian or Abbey style of ale. So putting the black cloister together with this Abbey style or Abbey influence of brewing is where that naming convention comes from. And we tie all of our beer names back into that core concept. So our flagship beer is called the Rose. It's a Belgian-style blonde. Our icon for that beer is derived from Luther's personal crest. The Champion is our American Pale Ale that has obvious sort of Christological implications. Our black IPA is called the Fortress. Luther's most famous hymn was called "The Mighty Fortress is Our God." So we try to tie all of our nomenclature back into that core story. That really reflects who we are, business partners, as people. We're history nerds. Our bar manager used to say, "Beer nerds are nerds first." And so
I think that's true.
You know, we consider ourselves to be pretty nerdy guys. We like history, we like theology, we like science, and we put all that stuff together into our Belgian influenced but not Belgian exclusive style of brewery.
You guys so need to put that on a T-shirt.
Oh, we did, and we have one. We started a series of them. The one that we have is in like green DOS font. It says, you know, /C:, beer nerds are nerds first. And then our logo made up of zeros and ones on the back that says drink smart. So we've done
I have a
one.
suggestion for a beer name for you. There's a very famous, because I read a book about Martin Luther, and there's a very famous meeting between him and Thomas Cajetan.
Okay.
That would be a great name for a beer, right there.
What's the name?
I don't disagree, except that's
Thomas
a lot of
Cajetan.
letters. Yeah, see, that's a lot of letters to put on a bottle or a can.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I
Well,
strive
my household is Lutheran, and my wife is a Lutheran and a musician, so she would definitely tell you that you need to make a J.S. Bach as one of your beers.
Nice.
So, yeah. So he was a very famous Lutheran musician.
Oh, but Cajetan or Cardinal, or just called a Cardinal. No, yeah, I don't know.
There's they're almost limitless possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Johann.
So how many beers do you how many different beers do you have on tap at any given time in your regular rotation?
In the brewery right now, we've got 12 on, plus we've got a beer engine, so we'll run something on the cask conditioned all the time. Out in market, typically we have anywhere from 7 to 10 beers in rotation at any given time. We have 6 that are year-round. Typically we'll run one seasonal and one-off kind of during any given period. Right now we're running Crossroads, which is our summer ale, and a one-off called St. Lucie, which is 100% wheat, using some Corsair smoked malt and Falconer's Flight. So it's 100% wheat smoked IPA.
Is it all Falconer's Flight?
Yes, 100% Falconer's Flight.
That's you know, I'm up here in Northern Virginia, just south of DC, and DC Brow. I'm sure you've heard of them.
Yeah.
Well, because you guys are going to be here for Savor this year, so I'm sure you have plans to go by DC Brow. But they have a beer called On the Wings of Armageddon that's all Falconer's Flight. So
nice.
It's a beautiful double IPA. So it's gonna be fun to see you get to drink. You know, you have a 100% Falconer's Flight beer, and they brew one as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
that would be a weird looking for
there you go.
a Lutheran church-based brewery.
Yeah. Well, On the Wings, right?
Yeah, that's
Armageddon comes from the Bible too.
So you are you only tapped? Did you say, are you canning anything or growlers or?
In the tap room we do growlers, of course, but we have three of our core beers are available now in 6-packs of 12-ounce cans. We just started canning 5 weeks ago. The Rose, which is our Belgian blonde, we sell more of that than anything else. Champion is our pale ale, and then 5 Points, which is our West Coast style IPA. Those 3 are available in cans. And then come fall, we'll roll out our coffee porter and also in the cans. We use a mobile canner, which is working out really well for us at this point. we haven't had any quality issues with it. We feel really strong about the quality of the liquid that we're putting forward. Scheduling is complicated because now our canning schedule drives the brew schedule instead of the other way around. But other than that, it seems to be working out really well for us.
Are you having problems ordering cans? Because I know there's always a minimum of can, and then you have to wait for the canning coming in.
Yeah, you can't see it in the dark, but right behind me, maybe you can if I tip this a little bit.
I
Oh
see
yeah,
a
tower of
yeah,
cans.
see that
Yeah,
right
we
there?
can see a tower. I thought it was a brick
yeah.
before. Now I see it's
Yeah.
a tower of cans.
Yeah, that's 330,000 empty cans.
Are you printing them directly onto the aluminum, or are you wrapping them, heat
Yeah,
wrapping
we
them?
print them right on the aluminum. So we ordered the cans through Wrexham. Wrexham, hardly even know them. The dad jokes never get old.
No, it never does.
But yeah, so we print right on the can. We order them from Wrexham, and so that was pretty much the minimum order was 100,000 cans per SKU. So we wanted to launch 3 SKUs, so we, put on our big boy pants and ordered all those cans.
Nice. So, what are you guys? I just spoke a little bit about Savor. So, what are you guys going to be pouring at Savor this year?
Oh gosh, I don't even know.
Okay.
It's
That's a whole month away, man.
it's a month away. It's
Yeah.
one of those things. We'll figure it out before we get up there.
What you ought
That's
to do,
kinda how
Carl,
we
is
roll.
you ought to slip a couple cans of that Falconer's Flight IPA into your luggage because DC Brow is also at Savor. We need to get them to bring some wings, and we'll do a Falconer's face-off.
Yeah.
There you go.
During the day, during the hotel, we normally don't have much to do, so we'll try to dive, beer off.
No, we'll just carry that stuff into the hall there. So
That's could be done too. Yeah.
So Carl, let me ask you. I mean, okay. So how big is your output? Well, what was your output in 2015?
2015, we did 2,700 barrels. We've got a 20-barrel brew house. We're rolling 5 fermenters right now, 3 40s and 2 90s. I'd say we're running at about 65% capacity right now before we launched cans. Rolling into cans, I'd say we're closer to the 80% capacity right now. Rolling into summertime when it's about to get really busy. So we're growing fast.
It seems you have a nice space there to add some more fermenters and easily get more production
Yeah.
when you need it, right?
Given the fact that the building was completely empty when we moved in, it really gave us the opportunity to design the facility how we wanted it to be, both for immediate occupancy and future growth. We have a 2,200 square foot brew deck that's a raised platform poured to a center drain, and we plumbed the glycol system with additional drops. So when we add more fermenters, all we have to do is basically screw them into the headers and brew into them. We've got room for another 6 fermenters. My partner John is at CBC right now shopping for 120s. So
from an output perspective, relatively speaking, you guys are small, right?
we're relatively small. Yeah, we're still in the micro category for sure.
So what are your thoughts on where the beer industry is going, right? Because they've been talking for the last 3-4 years about how there's a craft beer bubble that's going to pop. I mean, what are your thoughts on that coming from the perspective of a relatively small brewer?
I don't disagree that as astronomical growth occurs within in any business segment, that eventually that growth has to come to an end. But I really think that when you look at still 80% of the U.S. beer market being dominated by AB InBev, Miller Coors, that there's still a great deal of opportunity. And at least how it is in the Nashville market is there's a hyper focus on local. And as long as the local communities support their locally produced product, I think there's still plenty of room for us to grow. Are breweries going to fail? I mean, of course they are. Restaurants failed, small businesses fail. That certainly happens. It's unfortunate and it's sad. But I think that is there a bubble? Probably. Is it going? What the future holds, I just don't know.
Well, I have a personal theory. I think you're on the sweet spot. I think 15, 20 barrels is where you make or break it. I think that's where the brewery becomes, because that's where you start getting support from your local customers and start growing little by little. I think if you survive on a 15, 20 or a 20 barrels, I think that's sweet spot for a lot of breweries. That's my theory. You can talk about that as well. But I know Tennessee has it's kind of weird with laws, right? You guys are going through a lot of transitions as changing laws and things like that on the last couple of years.
Yes, I mean, we could spend hours on this topic, but suffice to say, the beer laws in Tennessee are very complicated. They're arcane. Our high gravity versus low gravity cut point is 5% by weight or 6.25 by volume. Anything over 6.25 by volume in the state of Tennessee is considered liquor. And so if you want to make anything more than that, you have to have a distiller's permit. So right now, all of our beers are 6.25 or below. That law changes, the definition of beer changes in January, where beer will be defined as 8% alcohol by weight or 10.1 by volume. However, the tax structure does not. We have the second highest beer tax rate of any nation in the country, a second only to Alaska. And even though there has been some movement by the state government to lower the beer tax burden on small business, it's been barely anything at all. So we find ourselves not just trying to gain traction in a non-traditional beer market in the Southeast, but also pushing against prohibitive and truthfully sort of distressing beer tax and distribution laws.
That's rather unfortunate because they're losing out. They're losing out because because the ridiculous ABV cap, and then not only that,
Right.
the tax thing is killing you as well. So I mean, there's a lot of opportunity that Tennessee as a state is missing out on, not only for the brewers who are there, but also from the perspective of attracting outside brewers to come into the state. So,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
And we've been very fortunate in Tennessee here recently to have added Founders and to added Bells and to added Six Point just launched here. So we've got some really great national brands moving into Tennessee, but they're not bringing their full portfolio because the tax structure on the high gravity liquid is so prohibitive that it doesn't make it's. Yazoo ships beer to Mississippi. He makes more on his beer that he ships to Mississippi, even including freight, than he does on what he sells in Nashville.
Yeah.
Just because of the prohibitive tax structure.
And cities like Nashville could really get some beer tours and stuff like that. I mean, we see states, as we do this show, we see states changing law just because of the amount of people that you bring in. Some cities that has no tourism at all are investing on brewery tours or helping their breweries because it is a good business for the town.
Exactly. I mean, look at Asheville, North Carolina. Relatively small population base with an absolutely amazing beer scene. And that's not by mistake, nor is it by accident. That was designed and promoted by both the city and the state government to attract breweries, to attract big ones like Sierra Nevada and New Belgium and Oscar Blues. So it's a very conscious decision made by the powers that be to either bring it or not bring it. And right now, Tennessee is wrestling with that.
Yeah. So, Carl, where do you guys see yourselves in the next, say 5 years?
It's funny. I used to tell people that we were out for like global domination, but I mean, I really feel like we see ourselves as a Southeast regional player. I grew up in upstate New York. I would love to send our beer up there so that my dad could buy it at the liquor store, at the package store if he wanted to. But truthfully, we feel like being strong in our home market and being strong in the region that touches our home market is where our greatest opportunity lies. And so 5 years from now, I would like to see us as a regional player. There's quasi-regional player in that sort of 25,000 barrel spot.
That'll be some pretty not significant, but really like nicely controlled, robust growth. If you get
Right.
to 25,000 barrels in the next 5 years, that would mean that you guys are doing some things
Like,
absolutely
yes,
right.
like double digit, yes, insane growth. And, you know, is it possible? I don't know. But so my dad used to say, aim low, you'll land there. So,
there you go.
you know, we try to set our sights high, and if, you know, we'd be very fortunate and blessed to get there.
Do you guys have any new beer coming out that you want to mention?
Yeah, our summer ales that just came out 2 weeks ago. It's called Crossroads. For y'all, I'll tell you, it's a cream ale. We typically describe it here as a summer ale. There was cream ale in Tennessee. People immediately think that they have you know, vanilla in it, and it doesn't at all. It presents very much like a classic American Pilsner.
But there's a revival for the cream ale. I'm seeing a lot of brewers going cream ale right now, and it's actually a great style if you do it right.
It's really delicious, and it's very Pilsner-esque. And for small craft beers who are craft brewers, where lager brewing is difficult, challenging, and expensive. No more dirty jokes from my pastor. The other one leaving. But a cream ale is such a nice hybrid for ale breweries to be able to play in that lager-esque category. So we'll run that summer ale through leaning up until August sometime. We're mixing in like that smoked wheat IPA we just mixed in. That's only 3 weeks old also, so pretty good. It's 2 little one-offs. We've got a couple of sours that we have in market. We tinker with that just a smidge. We had a pretty extensive barrel aging program, but the giant tower of cans took up all the space where our barrels used to live. So we're temporarily out of the barrel aging business until we get some of these cans filled and out into the market.
Gotcha, makes sense. And also, so aside from Savor, which is going to be June 3rd and 4th, where you guys, of course, as you mentioned earlier, you guys are going to be pouring there. Do you have any other events or festivals coming up in your area that you guys are going to be pouring that you want to mention?
Yeah, we're at a number of regional. Right now, our beer is only distributed in the state of Tennessee. And so from Johnson City, which is as far east, almost to Virginia, to almost to Memphis, so far west is Jackson, Tennessee. We're in. We've got a couple of festivals coming up here in Nashville proper. The next one in Nashville is called Brew at the Zoo. That's in the beginning of June also. It's a benefit for our local Nashville Zoo. 40-plus breweries, including the 20 or so in the local region. Run by a company called Rhizome Events. Rhizome always puts on great festivals, so we're really glad to be hung out with that one. And then I'm going to Tullahoma in 2 weeks. Tullahoma is about an hour and a half southeast of Nashville for a festival called Grapes and Grains, which is also includes wine. And so that'll be a fun opportunity for us to get out of our kind of core competency here in Davidson, get out into a more rural market, and talk about what Black Abbey is bringing to the table.
Very nice. So I mean, you guys are, even though you're within the confines of the state of Tennessee, you definitely aren't shy about getting out there, man. And I mean, Memphis is almost the next state, right? Memphis is right on the river.
Memphis is right on the river. That's it's upper Mississippi to a lot of folks, but that's the next great frontier. I think that Memphis is an exciting market right now. There's a brewery in Memphis called Wiseacre who's making absolutely amazing liquid and has kind of raised the Memphis profile as a craft beer spot. I think they were overlooked largely, and the success that Wiseacre is having has opened everybody's eyes to what Memphis really has to offer for craft beer.
Awesome. Well, Carl, we'd like to thank you, man, so much for giving us some of your time. I mean, I know
no problem.
You run a brewery, so you're a busy man, and you decided to give us some of your time tonight. So we are more than appreciative of you doing that for us.
Yeah, I'm glad to do it. Now, y'all joked earlier that I should have my Twitter handle tattooed on my arm, so I could just pop it up here so you can see it. But I encourage all the folks in the Hangout to check us out on our website, which is blackabbeybrewing.com. We have a Facebook page as well, and our Instagram is at Black Abbey Brew. Same with the Twitter at Black Abbey Brew. So follow us there, check us out there, and just know that you're going to get probably more dad jokes than you probably wanted.
Awesome. Wrexham. What? Wrexham?
Wrexham.
That's good.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Be sure to join us next week when we speak with Virginia Thomas. She is with the Cicerone certification program. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We get to hear a little bit more about that program from the perspective other than that of a Cicerone. Yeah, I don't think she's a Cicerone. Well, she's not a master Cicerone. So be sure to join us next week for that interview. Until then, find some good friends, find some great beer, and mind those P's and Q's.
Cheers.
Cheers.